our second edition of the Silicone Sessions. Today, I am joined by an individual that many of you within the silicone world will know, Dominic Testo of SSP, or Specialty Silicone Products. Dominic, welcome.
Nathan, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you reaching out from across the pond, and I think we're going to have some fun today.
Good. Well, you came very highly respected when we did our early calls. I spoke to you, well, I think you were probably the third or the fourth company that I spoke to within this sector. And you guys are actually one of our founding exhibitors, founding members. I'd love to ask you, what tempted you guys to sign up and to join?
Yeah, when I saw that you guys were doing a show, it sort of hit me that there is no completely silicone-focused show. And with the vast amount of it, used across the globe in so many industries, I just thought, wow, I can't believe that there isn't a silicone-focused show. And it's kind of crazy to me that no one's done it. So when you guys pulled the trigger and your firm set this up, I jumped at it. I wanted to get signed up as fast as I could, get involved, do whatever I can to promote the show, because I think it's a super important product, and it's a super important time to have this show for a lot of reasons that I think we'll talk about here. Awesome.
Yeah. And actually, yourself personally, you've joined our advisory board as well, which is, a fairly selective group. And so far, you've really proved you're very influential, and you've helped us a lot. So, again, if I could ask you a similar question, what sort of what made you decide to join that group as well?
Yeah, the value that I thought I could bring for the advisory board, because the problem with sometimes newer trade shows is driving traffic to the show. The why Silicone Expo, and that's something I think that from where I sit in the marketplace, I have a good vision for who should attend and why, right? So again, go back to that why Silicone Expo. And I think you can break it down to three different groups. You have your first group, which is the major silicone suppliers. And these are your well-known companies, the Dow, Momentive, Wacker, Shinichi, Elchem, NuSil. Some of your big guys are what I call the big guys. And if I missed any, I'm sorry. Those are just the ones that are coming to mind, for now. But you have those groups, right? And then you have sort of your what I like to call your added value converters, whether that be a silicone extruder, a custom compound mixer, a die cutter of cured silicone materials, and anybody who's going to fabricate that raw material into a final part, which brings me to the last group, in which is, the OEMs and the manufacturers who procure, silicone parts and silicone materials, which is basically the attendees for this show. So you have your big players for the raw material producers. You have your sort of middle group who has all the added value and converts the materials, and then you have the attendees. So I think my value on the advisory board is to explain why each one of these groups should attend the show. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead and do that, if it's okay with you, Nathan.
Of course. Yeah, far on.
Yeah, okay. So let's start with the major producers. Now, they don't have an issue with brand awareness. Anybody in the industry is going to know these players. But what's happened over the last, I call it, 18 months that we've been in this pandemic, most companies shut down travel. So these large producers and their sales reps have really not been out seeing their customer base and seeing, prospective customers. So when you look at the value of Silicone Expo, you have an opportunity where these big players can see several of their current customers at one place at one time. And if you think about the cost and more even the time to go out and see all these people individually at their sites, I don't even know if you could do it within a year and a half, and everybody's going to be playing catch up. So I think it's a very efficient place for some of the large producers to come see their customers. I can see some of these larger producers setting up 20 to 30 meetings with key customers at this show over the week. And even if it's coffee in the morning and some quick meetings at the booth, that's still an opportunity to talk to your customers and see what's going on, because my guess is they haven't seen them in a while. Not any fault of their own, just that the pandemic shut down travel. So that's the first reason for the main producers to come to the show. Here's the second reason or that I think that the main, what I call the big guys should come to the show. I think in the industry, you get used to using one supplier as your primary supplier a lot of times because they're easy to work with and you get used to their materials. And then you use some of the other suppliers as a secondary source, or potentially in some spots where you need to bring in a different type of material that a customer dictates. So what happens is over the years, 3, 5, 10 years, you might view that alternative supplier the way that they were 5 or 10 years ago. And companies change in 5 to 10 years. And so the larger producers have actually come up with some pretty good products, some new products that, some of the, converters might not know about. So I think this is a chance for some of the large producers to come in and show, hey, this is what you think we do and what we've done in the past. Here's some of the new things that we do. And I think that's pretty powerful because these companies have some pretty good technology and they've got a lot of R&D resources. So I think they have some unique problem-solving products that some folks might not know about. So there's your 2 reasons for the big producers.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
100%. Actually, somebody mentioned to us recently they thought that 2022 was going to be an unprecedented year for exhibitions, for getting back out there, for businesses to start to really realign. It's been a bit of a challenging it would have been a couple of years by then. And so for us as a show, we thought, well, actually, summer of 22, the aim is everyone is, like you just said, going to want to get out there and meet and do some business. So
yeah, right. Everybody's playing catch up with their travel. I mean, I was going from, seeing, 30 or 40 customer visits in a year to 0 in person anyway. And I think everybody's a little fatigued from Zoom and ready to get out there and see some people in person. So I agree. And so that brings me to the second group, that those converters, fabricators, molders, extruders, distributors, that I think is really a super important part of the industry. And so there's 2 main reasons I think those companies, and this is where my company SSP fits in the mix. A lot of times that, the middlemen might be a little smaller, and brand awareness globally might not be something that they have like some of the big players like a Dow. So it's your chance to get out there and get a global footprint because everybody in the industry is going to be there. And there's a lot of, smaller manufacturers that are just getting into doing marketing or, white papers or technical blogs. So they're starting to get their name out a little bit. But when you go to one of these shows, you can really kind of walk the show and see the exhibitors, and you get some brand awareness for some of our, smaller companies. And so I think that's important. And then I think there's a hidden gem for the, the converters in this trade show, especially, right, Nathan? So what a company like SSP is good at is not necessarily what some of the big players would be good at, right? So if somebody's going to custom mix or custom develop a small amount of material, there's a need for that in the market. The big OEMs don't always need 1 million parts. Sometimes they need 3 or 5 or 10, right? And that's what some of these companies in the middle are very good at. So what happens is if you are a engineer, for example, or a procurement person, and you go to Google and you want to search for, a silicone, material, but you only need a little bit, you're probably going to find the larger companies because they have the brand awareness, but those companies aren't necessarily going to be able to help you out. It just doesn't fit their business model. So you want those companies to know who you are for a referral basis, right? So if you are going to go to the show as, a converter, a fabricator, molder, what have you, you have this hidden value in the show where you go network with all the main producers to let them know, hey, this is what I'm good at. If you see this from people, we can do this. And it's a win-win because if I get a referral from a manufacturer, I'm going to try best I can to use their material in that application. So I think if you even take away, I think you're going to get a lot of attendees. I think this is going to be a very well attended show. But if you just looked at the value from the referral basis between the large manufacturers and some of the smaller companies that are a little bit more niche, if you got 5 to 10 leads or referrals over the next year and a half from the show in that situation, and you took on 2 or 3 new pieces of new business, you paid that show off in an order or 2 and for a lifetime. So I think that's a really important one for the middlemen. So there's my top 2 for the converters and fabricators. And if it's okay, I'll move on to the attendees.
Amazing. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And that actually, just to touch on a couple of points that you made there, we're learning. So I'm very new to the industry. So my background is, of course, running events. But before the turn of this year, I didn't really know much about silicones. And 7 months later, I know a bit, not much, but a bit more. And every day I'm finding out that the material can be used in more and more and more different things. You know, it's really, the applications are endless, it seems.
After Nathan, after I, give the quick insight on why I think some of the attendees should hit the show, I got some show and tell here. We're going to have some fun, just to give a good visual on how vast silicone is and where it is in many different applications. But I think it's really important, that I hit this last point for the attendees, the OEMs, the engineers, the product designers, the procurement people, the supply chain people, especially, right? A lot of industries are in a supply chain crunch right now, silicone included. And so I think that the two main reasons for the attendees to come, number one, is that you should always have dual source options. You don't want to go line down. And sometimes companies have one supplier, and they know of others, but they haven't necessarily qualified them or got to know them or really kind of shopped the market just for security. And a lot of times your main supplier is going to do a great job, and you hope you never have a reason to need an alternate supply. But right now, in this supply crunch, it would have been very beneficial for some of these, OEMs to know the market a little better. So super important. There's never been a more important time for that. Lastly, COVID has really slowed down the development process on a lot of projects. And now you've got the economy coming back. You've got a lot of markets coming back pretty quickly. And I think people are going to want to move faster than they normally do. And that brings you to sometimes you can't make a tool or, make a silicone part the next day. But there are companies that do rapid prototyping. There's smaller companies that are able to turn things faster than some of the larger companies. And I think the procurement people, and especially the engineers and product managers, they can go find 2, 3, 4 people at this show that I already know are attending or going to visit who do rapid prototyping and might, turn a part or a sample in a week. That is it. It may be even faster. And I think that's going to be really important as we try to move products and projects faster along the way. So there's your 3 groups. Just to recap a little bit, you got the major manufacturers of the raw materials, you got the converters, and you've got the end users, and all good reasons that they should be at this show.
Love it. Yeah. Actually, if I could go back, it's a conversation piece every time we speak to somebody within whatever part of the supply chain they're in, is supply chain issues.
Sure.
People with contracts, they can't honor them, or they can only honor part of them. They're having to have these very, very difficult conversations with their clients, and it's everywhere. Now our thought leadership part of the show, i.e. the conferences, the webinars we're going to host, will address that. But I think as an industry, we're going to have to try and start finding ways to manage that moving forward. So in 3 or 5 or 7 years, how are we going to prevent that happening again? So you touched on one point there with rapid prototyping, but have you got any other thoughts on that or suggestions on how the industry could improve?
I think it's all about education, right? I think that when the industry sees a show like this and realizes that the global demand for the industry is so big and so wide that it's going to motivate them to add capacity and to get some things in line where this won't happen again with the shortages. I think that we just need to educate especially the North American, markets and some of the European markets that we might need to increase our capacity, because silicone is in demand. It's a demand in healthcare and some of the applications we'll talk about. So I think that the show will bring some good reminders to people that, hey, this is not going away anytime soon, this product, and it's in so many different places that we've got to make sure we have it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, so we wrap up that part. Now you mentioned you got some props.
Sure. So I was trying to think of a way, Nathan, to just show how, wide ranging silicone products are in our everyday life that you probably don't think about unless you're in the industry. And so I kind of took myself through a normal day. A normal day for me, right, is I get up and get ready for work. And just recently, I have a 5-year-old and a newborn, so a crazy house. And my 5-year-old treats the bathtub like it's a bobsled. So some of the tiles pushed loose, and you think, and just in your bathroom is a normal silicone sealant you can buy at any hardware store, where you're going to seal sinks and you're going to seal bathrooms and bathtubs and showers. So, the first thing you do in the morning, get ready and use the bathroom. Silicone's in your bathroom for sure. And so, you think about that. And then I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning feeding our newborn, giving mom a break from nursing. And a huge market too is, the top of the bottle for the babies. It is a silicone material. It's inert, it's safe, it's USP Class 6 platinum pure silicone that is injection molded. This is a huge market, and it's not only in the bottles for babies. It's in all sorts of teethers. It's in pacifiers. It's in nursing and breast pump machines. It's really all over the place. Within the baby market. So there's 2 places that I saw silicone before, it was even light outside this morning. And then, to move more down the path of everyday life, when I make my son breakfast in the morning, you're usually using silicone cookware. Silicone is flexible. It can be cleaned easy. It can go in the dishwasher, and it can take the temperature of any hot frying pan. So you end up with a silicone material for that. So really, there's 3 places before I left my house in the morning that you've got a silicone product. And so what these are, more commodity type products, somewhat. And so you have your everyday household items. Then I come into work at SSP, and some of the things that we do are very high end, med device, military, aerospace, telecom, analytical testing materials. So you go from silicone being in a spatula to something like this, which is a reinforced silicone seal used on the door or windows of aircraft. This happens to be a military product, but you'll see these type of products in commercial flights as well. When you go to step on an E-737 or any plane, you see a big gray bulb seal on the door before they close it up. All that is reinforced silicone seal. So they're using those for the temp range, for all the capabilities of silicone. And then to take it to even more of a kind of advanced sort of critical application, you've got something like this, which is a fluorosilicone seal for a rocket application. And this one here, this is going to be a little tough to see, but this is a filled conductive elastomer. So this is something SSP specializes in, where we're making an electrically conductive silicone. We're basically taking an insulative silicone, putting conductive fillers like nickel and silver in it to make it a conductor. And the end use for that product is pretty impressive, Nathan. It's where you need a seal, like any other silicone where you would seal an enclosure, but you also need to shield from electromagnetic RF, right? So my best example of this in layman's terms is if you had a metal box and you just wanted to seal from water, wind, dust, you put a regular silicone seal around that box, you're all set. If you put your cell phone in that box, closed the box up and called your cell phone would ring because the RF and the frequency would go through the silicone seal into the cell phone and it would ring. Military and telecom do not want anything interfering with their electronics within enclosures, especially on avionics and something like a fighter jet. They want everything sealed off from the environment, but they also want it sealed off from electromagnetic pulse. You put a conductive elastomer gasket in there the right way and compress it down, put your phone in there and call your phone, it's going to go right to voicemail because no RF got through. So you're talking about a pretty critical technology. And we started the conversation with bathroom sealants and spatulas. So this is going to just takes you through the range of where silicone is and what it does and how wide the range is. So I think that's pretty impressive for our industry.
Very impressive. I mean, it's got to be one of the most diverse materials on the planet, surely.
It absolutely is. I mean, from the temperature range that it can handle, all the way to every application it can go into. It's a pretty unique material that we can't live without, especially in healthcare.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think we've discussed a lot today. Gone really sort of proved just quite how versatile the material is.
For sure.
Thank you so much for coming on today. That's been really helpful. I think our listeners will be really interested to hear this.
We are one of a very few handful of people globally who are registered to a few particular military specifications to be able to sell that product worldwide. So there are a handful of companies in North America and the UK who produce the materials. But it's very different. You can't go buy it at the store like this, right? It's very niche material. And, that's, as an example, just to bring the whole thing home, some of the larger base silicone manufacturers might get an inquiry from large defense prime like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or, Thales or somebody like that. But they're not going to be able to help out. So if you go to the show and you're a company like me and whatever your niche is and they know about you, you're going to get that referral. So I would sign up for Silicone Expo if you're touching the industry in any way.
Good man. Well, thank you very much, Dominic Testo of SSP. Very welcome. Visit them at the show. I think we'll probably hear a lot more from Dominic over the course of the year. Big supporter of Silicone Expo. Dominic, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.